All right, the Mike and Billy Show. Very proud to welcome in Bob Hardcore Holly to the show. Welcome, Bob.
Hey, thank you guys. I appreciate you guys having me on, and I want to thank you too because if it wasn't for guys like you with your radio shows and stuff, I wouldn't have a platform to get my story out there. And I just truly want to thank you guys, and I just know I do appreciate being on your show. I really do.
Well, and I appreciate you writing a fantastic book, Hardcore Truth.
I did. I didn't quite write it. I mean, Ross Williams wrote it, and he did a fantastic job. And putting my words, to paper and my story to paper and stuff like that, and and he tried to capture my voice in the book, and I cannot say enough good things about how well he did getting my story out there the way I would tell it.
Well, certainly without your story, he wouldn't have anything to be penning down on the paper, right?
That's true. Good point. Yeah.
Reading it, though, it kind of, I liked it better than a traditional biography because it was almost like you were just chatting, just talking and telling your story as opposed to, being descriptive and writing these long paragraphs and stuff. It was like just sitting down and having a conversation like we're doing right now.
Yeah, it's funny you said that because a couple other people have said the same thing. It was like, I was sitting in the room and I was just having conversation with them and stuff. So, thank you. That makes me feel good that you said that.
Well, it was funny. I was talking to Mike about it as I was reading the book, and I've read a lot of other biographies by Mick Foley and by Jericho, but I likened yours, and I said it's like the Ernest Hemingway of wrestling books. It's straight to the point. That's it. There's no fluff. There's no BS. It's just right then and there. That's what you're gonna get. You're gonna get the hardcore truth from Bob Harley.
Nice.
Right. And I wanted to write a book. I didn't want to, write something where people had to read between the lines, and it's like, and that's the way I've been all my life. It's like, there's no gray area with me. It's either black or white, no ifs, ands, or buts about it, and that, to me, that's honestly the best way to be, because, a lot of people don't know where they stand with you and stuff like that. And I like people to know where they stand with me, and I've always been like that.
Yeah, there was definitely no mincing of words in the book.
No.
But speaking of that, has anybody reached out to you since the book has been released? Anybody that you may have told stories of or any of that stuff?
Not really. Even before I wrote the book, the wrestling business is kind of funny because it's like when because we work with each other 24/7. We're on the road constantly together, and when you're finished, it's almost like you still have friends, but you don't talk to each other. If you know what I'm saying,
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you could pick up the phone and call somebody, a couple of years later and talk just like you were talking yesterday or whatever. But nobody really, guys really don't reach out to each other that much for whatever reason. And, and I'm not worried about it. It doesn't bother me. If people like my book, that's great. If they don't, hey, there's nothing I can do about it.
Right. It's almost like, when you were in wrestling, it was like having your friends in high school, and then you grow up and, you guys separate, but when you come back together, you just pick up like the old times.
Right. It's like if I'm, do a show and I see some of the guys there, it's like you said, it's just like we pick up right where we left off. It's, it's not a big deal, really.
Speaking of which, I saw you in TNA's Hardcore Justice pay-per-view. You did a great job, Bob.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. Everybody was so nice to me. And, despite the company woes that they're having, and honestly, I don't know what's going on, but, everybody's really nice. Everybody just seemed pretty relaxed, and, and I just had a good time. I really did. It was good seeing people that I've worked with in the past.
Right. Is there, is there any aspiration for maybe another run, or are you happy doing one-offs and just living your life the way you are?
I'm happy living my life on my terms. I get up every morning and I don't have a schedule, and it's so nice not having the stress of being on the road or being in the political mix of stuff. It's a whole nother world, honestly, and it's just I'm spoiled now, and it's I enjoy doing the one-off deals with independents here and there. I don't do too many. I'm very picky in the ones I do, and I got some stuff coming up in September. I got a couple shows there, and then I go to England in November, and then Australia right after that. So, and that's it for me for the rest of the year. I don't, I still love wrestling, but I like being at home now.
Mm-hmm.
I like doing my own thing.
Yeah.
You get a little less rehabbing when you're
When you're just doing
life.
it every now and then. Yeah.
Exactly. And then now, and then when I do these shows that I've got coming up, of course I'm going to be paying for it after that, for a few days. But, it's just, I enjoy, like I said, I enjoy getting up, going to the gym. I still work out just as hard as I did when I was wrestling. I go to the gym, I come home, and, me and my wife, we go fishing, or we're always off doing something.
Well, again, like you said, it's on your time. It's your schedule is your schedule. It's not anyone else's.
Right. Yeah. And it's just, honestly, I'm so spoiled by it. I don't think I could go back to, another schedule like that. I'm having too much fun.
Right. Absolutely. Now,
I miss wrestling. Don't get me wrong. I miss it, but I don't miss the travel. And, like I talked about in my book, the politics, I'm not good with politics. I stay out of that stuff, and, and maybe that's what hurt me as far as me moving, further in my career. But honestly, I don't care, because I don't want to be driven by politics to succeed, so, and I, like I said, I was very content doing what I was doing. Yeah, it would have been nice to go further and stuff, but I was perfectly content, not being in the political mix.
Well, I think the best thing about this book is that, it reaffirmed to me of my admiration for you, because it just looked like, and again, I'm 28 years old. I remember when you debuted as Thurman Holly, and then, Sparkplug, and then, and Bombastic Bob, and all, and, following your career, you're one of those guys that you have an admiration for, because you've been there for so long, and you just put your head down, and you work to the best of your ability, and you do that, and you proved it in and out, and so to actually read it from, read the words from Ross and then from your words, it just reaffirmed to me that you're just a hardworking guy, and that's what a lot of people are missing these days.
Right, and that's the thing. Nothing, believe me, nothing was handed to me. Everything that I have, everything I've done, I've earned it. Nothing was given to me, and it's like the days now, it's almost like, the title, for example, it's almost like the title's just given to you. You don't have to earn it anymore. Take Kurt Hennig's kid.
Curtis
what
Axel.
is his name?
Curtis Axel.
Curtis Axel, yes. And it's like, this kid just came out of nowhere. Yeah, he's good, but all of a sudden he's the IC champion, and it's like, don't you think that it would have helped, along the way if they just, let people get to know him a little bit first before they throw the belt on him and stuff. And it's like, and that's one thing. I never was the Intercontinental Champion, and, belts were nice, but honestly, they really didn't mean that much to me. It means more money and stuff like that. And I wrote in my book that, it would have been nice to be a champion, because more money comes along with it and more prestige and stuff like that. But I was also happy doing what I was doing and making guys and doing what I was told to do, and that's the reason I lasted so long, too, because of my work ethic. I worked my ass off. I don't care what anybody says, and anybody will argue with me about it, but, I worked my ass off to stay with that company for as long as I did, and you hear rumors of all this stuff, how bad I was and how mean I was and this and that. But you honestly got to look at it and say, okay, if this guy was as bad as they say he was, would Vince have kept him around for 16 years?
Right.
No. If Bob Holly was a bully, like the internet rumors say that he was, would Vince put up with that? No, he wouldn't. So, like I said, I worked really hard, even before I got into wrestling to get in WWE. I worked my ass off. But, if I was a lot of these things that people say I was, I wouldn't have been with the company as long as I was, honestly.
Now, do you think that the style, the way they're bringing people in now, as opposed to when you were coming up, it's hurting the business? Like, I mean, there's no more territories, so it's basically almost like they go in for TV auditions now, as opposed to working their way up and learning their craft and putting on good matches. Do you feel that it was more beneficial for people in your era as opposed to what they have now?
Oh, absolutely. Territories helped you develop your craft, helped you perfect it, because honestly, the best of the small territories went to WWE.
Right.
And so, but now, like, the way everything has evolved, there is no territories anymore. So what WWE is doing with the Performance Center that they have, my hats off to those guys, because they have the tools to create and develop really, really good talent now. As before, there really was no place to really learn except for the small territories, which are gone now.
Right.
And because of small territories, all gave you, experience in front of cameras, in front of crowds and stuff like that. So now all that's gone. WWE has this Performance Center, and they give you all the tools to perfect your craft. And I think, my hat's off to them, because that, to me, that is just genius. That is, and that's why Vince is so successful, because he comes up with these things like this and to develop talent. And I just think that is the greatest thing in the world outside of WWE is this Performance Center, because there's no telling what kind of talent they're going to put out of that place now.
Now, is that something that if asked, would you be interested in going back and maybe, helping to sculpt these and mentoring these new characters coming in, these new athletes coming in, and obviously sharing a little bit input of your experiences? Because it seems like, as a guy who constantly put people over, who constantly, and again, you weren't of the Barry Horowitz putting people over.
Yeah, no,
no, you had a little.
No, I understand what you're saying there.
You know what
yeah,
I mean, would that be something of interest to you?
I don't know. It's hard to say, because, like I said, I'm enjoying what I'm doing now, and the thing is, they have so many guys at the Performance Center that have so much experience and stuff like that. It's almost like I wouldn't be any use to them, because they have guys, that's even better than me that give great advice. So I don't think if they did call me, I think I would turn them down, because I'm happy doing what I'm doing now.
Right.
But I do like helping people. Like, when I go do independent shows, when I do them, I like helping the talent there. I do some seminars for guys and stuff like that, where I really enjoy teaching people, because I actually physically get in the ring with these guys and help them, learn and stuff like that. But, don't get me wrong, I love teaching people. I love helping people. But I honestly, at this point in my life, I'd probably tell them no. And, Billy Gunn is there, and he's a really good friend of mine. Me and him are really close. Actually, he's my best friend, and, he's at the Performance Center, and him and I have never talked about me coming in and stuff, and I've never asked him, because I'm just really not interested. And,
You're content fishing and with your hobbies.
Right, yeah, exactly. And
nothing wrong with that.
I'm having too much fun doing what I'm doing now, and to have to go to Orlando, on a weekly basis and stuff, I don't think I would be happy doing that, even though it would be fun helping people. And I really don't think that me going there would benefit them any better, because they have so many great guys helping out down there. I really don't think that, it would make a difference if I came or not, because they got guys with so much more knowledge than me and that are a lot better than me that could teach these guys.
Are you still into racing, obviously, but do you still actually race cars, or are you just into it as a fan?
I'm just into it right now as a fan. I've got a car just sitting right now. I'm not really doing it. It's just so expensive.
Right.
And, sponsorship money's hard to come by. And maybe one day I'll start doing it again. But right now, just as a fan, I go to the races and stuff and help out with people. And I just enjoy it as a fan.
Because that was one of the eye-opening things about your book to me, was that when you were a Spark Plug Holly, you were actually racing. It wasn't just a gimmick, but Vince put together a race team for you.
Yeah, actually, you know, it was kind of funny because Vince came to me and said, "What would it take to, you know, sponsor a race car?" And I said, "Let me get the figures for you and stuff like that," and came back to him with it, and he said, "All right, let's do it." You know, and I was really surprised because let me tell you something. I thought I was the luckiest guy in the world. I'm getting to do everything I've ever dreamed about doing as a kid.
Right.
And this man right here has just granted every wish for me that I've always wanted, you know. So, and that's another reason why I was so loyal to Vince.
Yeah.
You know, despite all the BS that went on and stuff like that, you know, and and so, but it was unbelievable because, like, you know, I've won over 30 races and stuff. I've got all my trophies, and that's one thing that I was downstairs the other day, and I've got one of these inversion tables where I hang upside down, and I was hanging upside down. I was looking at my trophies. I'm like, why did I not take a picture of all these trophies and put them in my book?
Oh, yeah, that would have been great, especially if you were on the inversion machine, you know, upside down.
Yeah, and I should have, you know, I was like, why don't I just hit myself over the head? You know, that was a bonehead move and not doing that, and I should have done that, but, you know, yeah, but I'm just really thankful to Vince, you know, because let me tell you something. Despite all the politics, despite, you know, me not getting to be, you know, work on top, getting to the level of being a world champion or getting to be IC champion or U.S. champion, despite all that, you know, Vince took care of me, paid me well. I did what I was told to do. And I never had any issues at all with Vince or anything. So, you know, and because people asked me, you know, why were you with the company so long? And also I enjoyed doing what I was doing, you know.
You were getting paid to wrestle, and that's what you wanted to do. So why wouldn't you stay with the company?
Exactly. And the thing is, it doesn't matter whether you win or lose because it's not real anyway. But, you know, but during the Attitude Era, it didn't matter what storyline you were in. You know, if you were putting people over, you made so much money. Right. I mean, you made so much it would choke a horse.
Right.
So
I wanted to go back to the year between WrestleMania 14 and 15 because you opened both shows, but you opened them in drastically different characters. 14, you were Bombastic Bob of the Midnight Express, a new Midnight Express.
Yeah.
And then a year later, you were basically the hardcore Holly we've all come to know over the past X amount of years. How did that transition go, and was it between you and creative, or was it somebody came to you and said we want to do this?
Actually, it just kind of happened. The whole thing with the Midnight Express kind of fell apart, you know, and it was doomed from the beginning because you can't go back and recreate Dennis and Bobby. There's no doing that,
right?
You know, and honestly, I was embarrassed trying to do that, you know, but they brought me back, and that's, you know, what they wanted me to do. And, you know, I'm not going to tell them no, you know, because I was off TV for a while before they brought me back and put me in that role. And so after that kind of, you know, dissolved, then I think they had the whole Job Squad thing, if I'm not mistaken.
Which I thought was a lot of fun, you guys. And every now and then someone mentions the Job Squad, and I always remember Al Snow saying, doing the JOB to BOB on the PPV. It always pops in my head. I don't know why, but it's always there. It just rings off. It's like you know, clockwork.
Yeah, and so, you know, we did, you know, and then so when we, you know, because I was just kind of floating around there trying to figure out what can we do with, you know, Bob, and so that's the whole thing with the hardcore division, and so they threw me in there, and Vince is actually the one that came up with the name Hardcore Holly. You know, we're going to call you Hardcore Holly, you know, because I fit that you know, that role, that hardcore division. That was a perfect fit for me, you know, and I couldn't have been any happier because it's like finally I found something, you know, that works for me.
Right.
Must have been a breath of fresh air finally being able to be who you are, basically.
Yeah, you know, and just, you know, be me with, you know, the volume turned up, you know, 100 times, and it was very comfortable for me because let me tell you something. If you're out there and you're not comfortable playing who you are, who they want you to be, you're not going to give 100%.
Right.
And the whole thing with the spark plug gimmick, yeah, I was a race car driver, but it's not reality. That race car driver isn't happy all the time. It's not smiling all the time, and that's what they wanted me to do. And it was tough for me, and people can see through that. The fans aren't stupid. They know when you're not comfortable being somebody.
Right.
And so that was doomed from the beginning. But back then, everything was a cartoon character type gimmick. So you just kind of roll with it and make the best of it and just get what you can out of it. And so that's what I did, always hoping something better is going to come along, and actually, and it did. And then finally the hardcore thing, and it fit. I was very comfortable with that character. And it showed when I went to the ring, because I went to the ring like I owned the ring, and
Right.
it fit, and it felt good, and you can always tell because the person performs so much better.
Right.
So
Now, how much of those hardcore matches for you, you and Al and Steve Blackman, how much of that was actually all improv, just going down there and just kind of, I mean, obviously you laid out some things before the match, but going down there, you probably you got to work the crowd, you got to feel what they're giving you, and I mean, some of the spots that you guys would come up with were humorous
Innovative.
and innovative for the time.
yeah, let me tell you something. Al was a genius when it came to the hardcore stuff. Al was the best. He was so fun to work with, and there was so many times I worked with him. That son of a bitch made me laugh all the time. I mean, you couldn't see it, but I covered up so many times laughing because Al is so funny, and he's so fun to work with, and so, but the whole key to the hardcore stuff is not using a whole bunch of items. You
Right.
just use, you just use, 3 or 4, but you make them mean something. And Al was really good at that, and that's how I learned, because Al's the one that taught me, hey, you don't need 10 items. Just bring me 3 or 4 things, and I'll make those things mean so much. And he was right; they did, and that's and I carry that today. People ask me about hardcore matches and stuff, and you see guys using 20, 30 things in the ring. They just throw all this stuff in the ring, start using it. It doesn't mean anything. And Al was, he just knew what to do, and I learned a lot from following him. And Al's just, I can't say enough good things about how good he was or is.
Well, and it's obvious. I mean, how good he must have been if they asked him to be a trainer there for, the first few seasons of Tough Enough. He's got something to offer people.
Oh yeah, he does. He does. And I think and when I went down to Orlando and did the stuff for TNA, Al's actually the one that called me and said, "Hey, would you do me a favor? Would you mind coming down here and doing this for us?" And I said, "Sure." And I had fun. And I talk to Al every once in a while, but and we don't ever talk business though.
Right.
Right.
Never talk business, but like I said, I learned so much from Al, and Al's such a good trainer, because when we were working with Tough Enough together, we played good cop, bad cop, and it worked.
Right.
But that's what you need, though, for some kids. You need the mother hen, and then you need the guy who's going to bust balls and get the best out of an individual.
Right. Yeah. And Al, he like you said, he was the mother hen, and I always told him, you baby these guys too much, and he's like, but Bob, that's just, you can't be hard on them. But my philosophy, and that's why it worked, because my philosophy was, you got to be hard on them, because you make them learn, but you also, and see, with me, I might have been hard on guys and stuff, because I want them to learn, because I know their potential, I know what they have in them, and I'm trying to pull it out of them, and I always praised them too for doing well. I was never this hard ass all the time, and I always, I did praise guys when they did well, because I know, looking at guys and watching them, that there's something there, and I was trying to pull that out of them, and it did, and it worked, You know, and that's why the whole good cop, bad cop thing worked for me and Al so well.
Right.
You know?
Now I think I had three favorite parts in the book. One being Vince selling you the racing equipment for $100, which I thought was, you know, you always hear these stories about Vince being a hard ass and being, you know, you looked at as just an asshole.
Your book sheds a whole new light on him, though.
But it sheds a whole new light where you look at him and you say, wow, you know, he's a great guy, you know. And again, of course, you've got someone like yourself who just goes out there, does what he's asked, and how can you say no to that guy? So for him to, you know, come around and just kind of give you that gear, I thought that was a great story. The other story, though, one of the other stories was, how does it feel to almost decapitate a 77-year-old woman?
Look, hey, she wanted me to. I didn't want to do it.
I couldn't believe, you know, because, you know, Mae Young, and for those who haven't read the book yet, go out and get it, because Bob tells a story about him and Crash Holly against Mae Young and the Fabulous Moolah, and you know, Mae she wants a clothesline, and Bob doesn't pull any punches in the book, and he certainly doesn't pull them in the ring. And you hauled off, and as you said, you wailed the clothesline on her as if she was JBL.
I did, and you know what? Bless her heart. I tried to talk her out of it. That's the thing. I'm like, look, this is TV. I said I have to bring it like I do everybody else, and I said, are you sure? And she just kept telling me yes, and I'm like, okay. And she warned me. She goes, you better bring it too. right before we were getting ready to go out, she patted me on the shoulder and she told me, she goes, you better bring it. And I'm like, you got it. You're asking the wrong person.
I mean, and just thinking of like all these other people where you hear and of course it's on the internet, so you don't know if it's the truth. But you hear all these other guys complaining about people working stiff, and you know, and then you have a story like this where a 77-year-old woman says, "Lay it in there," you know, and she doesn't sugarcoat it either. She's you know, she's talking like a trucker.
It makes you almost feel that you guys aren't actually working stiff; it's just the rest of them are working a little soft.
Right? Yeah. You know, and that's the thing with me too is like I've always been a firm believer. You know, work really tight. You know, don't let people sit there and say, "Oh, that was fake." Mm-hmm. You know, and I've always been a firm believer. You can connect without hurting somebody.
Right.
You know, there is not one person in the 16 years that I wrestled, and this is another thing that, you know, there's internet rumors floating around that, you know, I was rough on guys, I hurt people all the time. Name one wrestler that lost one night of pay from me working too rough with them where they were out of work. There's not one person. If anything, I'm the one that ended up getting hurt. I got the broken arm, the broken neck, you know. So, you know, yeah, I was rough with guys, but I knew how to take care of them too. But you have these guys on the internet saying that Bob Holly, he's an ass. He beat guys up. He was too rough with them and stuff like that. Hey, let me tell you something. Yeah, I was rough, but I never hurt anybody, you know. And I've always took pride in my work to where, you know, hey, that guy, you can't slide a piece of paper in between what he does, you know. And I've always took pride in my work as far as everything looking legit without hurting somebody.
The fact that all those rumors are out on the internet and stuff could also just be a testament to your character, because you played the hard ass, so people kind of believed it.
Yeah, you weren't smiling most of the time, you know.
Right, exactly, and that's the thing. You know, they didn't want me to. They wanted me to go out there all business, you know, just go out there, kick ass, all business, you know, and that's it. And that's the thing. You know, you just said it. You know, I must have made my character pretty believable if they actually think I'm really like that.
Still to this day, people, oh, he's a bully, he's a bad guy. It's
but it's not the truth. I mean,
we've been talking to you a half hour. Clearly, you're not an asshole.
You're not an asshole, but you know, and it's the same thing too. It's like you hear these things about Jericho. He works pretty tight. You know, other guys. Hell, you had Steve Austin just recently calling Punk out on Twitter saying work tighter, you know? I mean, where you got a guy like Steve Austin who's supposed to be, in this generation, you know, the end-all, be-all, the guy that you still want to see out there, and he's telling one of the, you know, this new generation's best worker, or one of them, to work stiffer, and then people still calling you out on it. You know, it doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. I just think what it boils down to is, you know, the people didn't like me. They didn't like my character, so they're just throwing darts at me and seeing what sticks. But, you know, let me tell you something, Punk. I always enjoyed working with him because he's one of the ones you didn't have to worry about working too rough with him because he brung it. He was rough back, and I enjoyed that, guys. You know, you bring up Chris Jericho. I loved working with Chris because I didn't have to worry about him, you know, and same thing with JBL. JBL, every time I saw my name across the board from him, I was like, oh, yes, this is going to be a blast.
You're going to need a couple extra ice packs in the morning.
Yeah, exactly, you know, so, but you know what, the bottom line is my whole career, I enjoyed it. I had a good time, you know, and despite what people say, how I was and this and that, the bottom line is if I was a bully, if I was an ass, or if I was mean to people, treated people like shit, you know, I would not, believe me, Vince would not have kept me as long as he did.
Right.
I promise you that. Because
Right.
Vince does not put up with people like that. You know, so, and,
Well, it's easy to throw stones from behind a keyboard, though.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I say that. It's just like, you know, the internet gives people a platform to be brave because they can't be brave out in the real world.
Yep.
You know, so that's their platform to be a superhero because they can't be. You know, so, but, you know, I don't let that stuff bother me, you know, and it's just funny because people talk about it all the time. I was like, okay, well, why was I with the company for so long then? You know, so.
Well, as long as you can wake up and look yourself in the mirror and still be, you know, still be who you are and be proud of it, then that's all that really matters. Who cares? Who cares what a bunch of people in keyboards say?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And the thing is like I treat people, you know, with respect, as long as, you know, they show me respect back and stuff like that. And, you know, and I just, you know, I'm not mean to people. Despite what people think, you know, when
Right.
people meet, they think this isn't the guy that is on TV. This is, you know, somebody else. But, you know, it's.
You're not Bob Holly.
Come on, I know Bob Holly.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So.
Now, this is I see there's a Bob Holly Twitter. This is you, the Bob Holly, right?
At the Bob Holly. Yeah,
At
I
the
have
Bob Holly.
I have 11,900 followers. It should say 11K9 right now, but it's at the Bob Holly. That's me. It's got and there's if you look at my pictures, I got a picture of me and my dog. Got a couple pictures of me and my race car and my Vikings. I'm a big Minnesota Vikings fan.
Really?
I've always been. Yeah, huge Vikings fan.
I didn't picture you as a Vikings fan.
You know what? Ever since I was in 4th grade, when I could start to understand football, that the color of their jerseys is what attracted to me because I liked the color purple, and ever since then, I've always been a Vikings fan.
Well, was it? Again, I'm trying to think, but were you around for the Purple People Eaters or?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was in the 5th, 6th grade then, and but yeah, Alan Page and all them, and Fran Tarkington. And,
Yep.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm telling on myself right now.
That's all right.
Yeah, but no, that is me on that Twitter. So, you know, if people, you know, because I don't have the blue check mark. So
That's why we had to ask.
Yeah, and people do ask me, hey, is this you? And I'll be like, well, who else has a picture of me and my dog? Or
Well, you never know these days. I mean, some of the stuff that's on Wikipedia, they could have photoshopped something from you.
Yeah, that's true. You do have a good point, but you know, and so, but yeah, that is me, and I guess, you know, next time someone says, "Is it really you?" Just tell me your name, and I'll take a picture with your name, hold your name up in front of me, and then that way, you know.
Clearly
so.
a move of a bully, right? Because you're not a nice guy.
Yeah, because assholes, all assholes do that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But if you also read my, if you go back, if you look at all my Twitter stuff, I talk to everybody. Everybody that tweets me, I talk to everybody. If I don't get to them right then and there, I will eventually answer your tweet. I answer everybody.
That's awesome.
You know, I mean, I do it for a couple days, 3 or 4 or 5 days or whatever, but I will sit down and I will answer every single person that tweets me, and other people will verify that I do talk to them. So,
What a huge jerk you are.
I am. Aren't I just the biggest, you know, what there is on the planet? and I'm very thankful to my fans, too, and I'm always thanking them and stuff. Go back and read my tweets, and you can see that I'm the biggest jackass there is on the planet.
Absolutely.
Well, you certainly got 2 big fans here, my man.
Well, I sure appreciate it, because I'm very grateful. And again, you guys, let me tell you something. I'm very grateful for you guys because I promise you, if I didn't have you guys to help me sell my book wouldn't go nowhere. So thank you very, very, very much.
Well, again, thank you for allowing your words to come out and be published and put out a fantastic book. Again, I couldn't put it down. I finished it in a day. It was one of those things where I just kept going back to it. I'd say, I got to take a break. Nope. Gotta keep going, and it's just a lot of fun. I'm gonna reread it again because it was fun to go through it because you were right there in the thick of a lot of a very fun time in professional wrestling for a lot of people, where it brought it out into the mainstream more so than the rock and wrestling connection of the 80s, you know, and so it was just so much fun to read, and again, I thank you, and I thank you for coming on the show and hanging out.
I appreciate you guys having me. It took Ross and it took us 18 months to do this project. And it was a lot of he would write it, send it to me. We would Skype like 4 days a week, and it took like 18 months to do it and stuff. But it was pretty fun doing it and stuff like that. And I thought the whole time before, when we sat down to do this, I was like, who in the hell wants to read my story? Ain't nobody going to want to read it.
Well, clearly a few people do. It's the Hardcore Truth, the Bob Holly story, available now, bookstores and online as well. Bob, I really appreciate you coming on. It's been great talking to you. And if you ever get up to Boston, let's have you in studio. Let's do this again.
Oh, I will be in Boston in September, by the way, too. So,
well, let's make it a date. We'll connect online and whatnot.
Yes, please do. Please send my wife an email or whatever, and we will definitely get together. I would love to do that.
That'd be awesome.
Bob.
Okay. Well, thank you guys very much. You guys have a great day, and I want to thank all my fans out there, and I really appreciate you all.
Thank you, Bob. You have a good day.
All right, you too. Thank you.